Good morning and welcome to the December 6th, 2024 meeting of the Winnipeg Police Board. I'm glad to be joined in the North Committee room today by our Vice Chair, Colleen Mayer, Board Member Damon Johnson, Board Member Daphne Penrose, Board Member Diane Redsky, and Board Member Kevin Selch. We are also joined by our committee clerk, Kate McMillan. And those that are from the Winnipeg Police Service attending today at the table is Acting Chief Art Stannard, Deputy Chief Scott Halley, Acting Deputy Chief Cam McKidd, and Executive Director Kim Nicholson. Also attending in the gallery is Executive Director Tara Holoka, Superintendent Brian Mill, Superintendent Dave Delisle, and Superintendent Bonnie Emerson. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory, the ancestral land of the Ojibwe, Cree, Oji-Cree, and Anishinaabe people, and in the homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. The water that we drink is sourced from Shoal Lake 40, located in Treaty 3 territory. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting? Damon, seconded by Colleen. All those in favor? That was carried, and we're glad to be joined by our Mayor, Scott Gillingham, who's also a board member. So we have two delegations today, and we'll turn it over to the clerk to have those delegations present.
Our first delegation is Jessica Peebles, joining us via Zoom with respect to reports number 4 and 5. Okay, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and turn on your video, you have up to 10 minutes for your presentation. If you can hear us, we just need you to turn on your video and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay. I'm unable to start my video. It's not letting me. Are you possibly? Can you go to the next delegate and then I'll figure it out?
Sure.
I don't use Zoom often. Okay, sorry. Okay, thanks.
Okay, we'll come back to Jessica and we'll hear from David Grant with respect to reports 2, 4, 5, 6, and 9. David, if you want to go ahead, start your video and unmute yourself, you have up to 10 minutes. Okay, David, you just have to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you. My apologies. It does take a few seconds to get those little operations done. Anyway, greetings and thank you very much for welcoming us to speak. I think public interaction with City Hall is a great idea. I feel I must preface these comments to establish context. I've not consumed alcohol for over 50 years. I've been driving partiers home for Operation Red Nose for 25 years. And I welcome everybody that's hearing this to call them if you need a safe ride home tonight and tomorrow night. So I've spent hundreds of festive hours, as they call them, on city streets, and I support efforts to deter impaired driving. Now, on topic 2, the Chief's report under the Check Stop program, I've asked before that this effort change direction slightly to be more effective. By taking the time to breathalyze every driver and perform a vehicle safety check on every car, I suggest that this becomes a circus. It becomes such a big event that it gets reported across the city. I believe that info sharing ruins the surprise nature of the check stop. It enables impaired drivers to avoid that street or park before they get there. If you add smaller teams and move them after 10 minutes or less, you can minimize this info sharing. The small team should be fully focused on license, insurance, and impaired status. As you will recall, I've shared this idea here before. In the days before there was a phone in every hand, warrant checks in U.S. states were done by corralling dozens of cars. I've taken part in these. I'm driving down a street in Chicago and suddenly everybody is forced off into a side street. And sometimes there's 100 cars there. And of course, the Canadians tend to be let go because we probably don't have Illinois state warrants against us. Now, smaller stops in the U.S. are much more effective. Have there not been industry mentions at conferences, police chief conferences, on the smaller is better principle? If you stop at 100 cars in small groups, you might find that the data supports this new idea. If your percent impaired is higher than for the clumsy or mega stops. If you do that, then you'll have proof which one is better, because we have to assume that the population, the percent that is driving impaired, would be similar. And if the new smaller stops turn up 5% guilty, and your mega stops are doing 1%, then you have reason to make that change. Also, in the chief's report are paragraphs on so many aspects of the WPS operation. This is very impressive. I think anyone who is critical of the police service should read this and know how extensive the work of the service is. What seems to be missing, though, is a paragraph on corporate crime, fraud, and white-collar crime. Where's the data on new cases, cases resolved, and cold cases? Even situations involving those who defraud the WPS and commit public mischief involving WPS are not mentioned. We know they happen. Why is this report silent on this aspect of crime in Winnipeg? Number 4, recruitment. I wish the committee luck and success. I noticed that back when I worked for large companies, they were led by those who had been on the team for a very long time. An array of vice presidents was developed, and one took over as president. One of these vice pres took over as president or CEO eventually. This worked very well for Hydro during the decades that I worked there. In more recent years, there's been a trend to bring in a leader who is completely unfamiliar with the organization he is to lead. This can be a big disadvantage for the new person. Leading a big organization, like being a lead researcher as I was, involves skills which may be rare in a workplace like WPS. I just offer this comment that perhaps internal staff should be groomed over the next few years to compete to be a chief in the future, in the way that the corporate world once did their succession plans. In this way, current staff also know that long service may reward them with this extra responsibility. Topic 5, business plan. Traffic safety plans. We can do a lot to improve safety. You're already doing a lot, but there's a bit more. You don't need to drive in Winnipeg for long before a pedestrian suddenly steps in front of you in mid-block. Often, you'll see a cyclist split lanes or violate a red light or a stop sign. It's less work to just blow through a stop sign than to stop and pedal up again. I still ride my bicycle. I've been riding bicycle for 70 years, more than that. There are paths that we are not yet taking. Until we can keep those on foot from stepping into traffic at the wrong moment, some will put themselves in unavoidable danger. Once they step out, there's not much you can do. You can brake and maybe swerve. Anyway, bike riders make mistakes, but currently the only consequences seem to be crashes. Can you imagine a city with no number plates on the motor vehicles? Do you agree that some drivers would be less responsible if no one needed plates? Look at the safety record of owner-operated cars, which are generally driven very responsibly, and stolen cars, where the driver has no relationship to the plate number. These are tragically driven very irresponsibly. I invite you to consider an analogy, a city where every bicycle had a big, bold number. Think how few cyclists would blast through red lights if every dash cam recorded their number. And there's lots of other security cameras all the time in Winnipeg, which is good. I've been a safety volunteer at pro motorsports events for more than 50 years. Long ago, photographers would sneak into forbidden places to get better shots than they can from the regular places, but they put themselves in danger. Until they were forced to wear big numbers, enforcement was impossible. Now they never do the dumb stuff they once did. And I would continue that analogy that as a safety official at a pro motorsports event, like at Mosport or Formula One, we enforce a set of rules to keep the drivers and teams safe. The enforcement has perhaps 1 lapse a day. So we have hundreds of cars, and everything they do wrong is enforced, as opposed to Winnipeg, where we may catch 1% of the people who don't do a stop sign right and who don't stay in their lane, all those things. So it's an environment where enforcement is the rule, and it's very strictly, strictly enforced. And unfortunately in Winnipeg, we can never have enough police staff to enforce even half of the mistakes drivers make. I ask you to advocate for mandatory numbering of bikes. None of the measures in this WPS report can possibly prevent the dangerous abuse of road rules by some cyclists. And we see too many of those cyclists are injured and killed each year. And I believe that just like licensing and numbering cars, that we should do the same for bikes. Number 6, Q3 update, third quarter update. WPS takes in a lot of money for criminal record checks. And I know as a Red Nose volunteer, we have to do that every year. But they're not what the public expects. If the check from last year has no value, then how good is one that's 11 months old? That person could be in trouble, and the employer, etc., would never know. You could add an automatic e-update feature to your current record check process. If the person does something that would prevent renewing their check during the year, the employer would be notified when that happens or shortly after. On the topic of the 160 km crashes, this is outrageous. This fatal crash exactly 6 months ago today. We need a better mix of PE and in-person ticketing, in my opinion. Heading towards 7 times as many robot ticks as real tickets is not good. For years, the WPS has depended on PE income. This means that, we shouldn't say income, on PE as enforcement. This means that the worst drivers do not accumulate demerits. We are told that PE costs less per $1 million in fines. Has the full cost of the 2 means of enforcement ever been compared by the city's audit team? Even if PE is more profitable, it seems that our roads are a little bit deadlier because of the dependence on PE. The guy who did the 160 crash into the bicycle, that guy, if he does that a lot, and he knows where the photo enforcement is likely to be, he could go on like that. That's maybe why he went crazy, is he didn't get stopped the first time he went 20 over. And I think we need a whole lot more radar on the dash of patrol cars as they drive through traffic. Anyway, topic 9, the communications report. One of the points made in this report says that WPS risks not meeting the public's needs and concerns. One such problem involves the fact that WPS has been operating its PE system, photo enforcement, without a contract and without meeting the basic terms of the enabling legislation. This problem has been raised often over the past 20 years, not just by me, but at this board and at council committees and in private communications between activist groups and City Hall. WPS has been required to track and report the safety of all the places where PE is deployed. As far as I know, as far as we know, no such report has ever been published in the 20 plus years of the PE. Has all the raw crash data.
Mr. Grant?
Yes?
Can you wrap up? You're
Sure.
out of time, so if you've got just a minute to wrap up.
Thank you very much for granting me that. It will just be 5 more lines. MPI has the crash data. MPI or WPS could use that data to produce the reports required by the legislation. On risk factor number 4, there's a simple tool to make your governance more effective. The board is not allowed to micromanage the service, but the board could lay out the topics, the headings for the report by the chief. And in that way, areas that are of concern to the board would be reported on by the chief without actually controlling anyone. So that was all. And thank you very much for the opportunity. I welcome questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members? Go ahead, Damon.
So, Mr. Grant, you made some comments about bicycle riders. You did not comment on it, people on electric bikes or electric scooters going onto sidewalks, which personally I think is very dangerous. These things can kill people very easily. There's no regulation of that at the moment, it appears. Bike riders constantly at night have no real visibility. They just ride around, they cross in front of you, and whenever I would like your thoughts on those things. Thank you.
And just before you respond, I'll just remind you to direct questions and responses to the chair.
Thank you. Yes, and to the chair, I would respond that in my formative years, when I was riding a bike, and my friends did too, we knew that if one of us did not have a tail light and a headlight, which is a flashlight on a clip, if we did not have that, they would be pulled over by the Riverside police would pull that bicycle over and speak to them. And ask them to walk it home. So there was, and that's a different day when the police actually had time to worry about an unlit bike. So that's one issue. Nowadays with LEDs, there's no excuse for a bicycle not having a flashing backlight clipped to the back of the seat, and the same with a nice headlight. As far as the e-bikes, as far as I've been concerned, since they came out, those are motorcycles. They're motor vehicles on two wheels. And if they have a limit of 35 kilometers, they're still motorcycles. We had motorcycles 60 years ago and 50 years ago, little mopeds that would only go about 30 or 40 kilometers. And they were still considered motorcycles in most places. I think Alberta had looser rules. But I would suggest that the operation of a motor vehicle and a 30-kilometer e-bike is one of those. That operation of those in a mixed stream where there's people walking and little kids and dogs and things, I would agree with you that that's unsafe. And it's unfortunate. We live in a world where environment and not using fossil fuel seems to be very important to people. And it seems that the people who make the rules are bending them to support the e-bikes. And I think, on the other hand, an e-bike that's going 40 kilometers on a street with a 50 limit is safer than a bicycle at 15 kilometers because they get passed less often. But I would agree with you that it's a danger and it probably should be enforced. And perhaps the answer is a bicycle path separate from the walking path. And when we can do that, and certainly at Wellington, we could do that. There's room to have the gravel walking path and a nice paved one for e-bikes and bicycles, because I suggest an e-bike is probably compatible with a stream that's only bicycles. So thank you very much for your question, sir.
Any other further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation today. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Jessica Peebles, and I believe she's joining us in person. If you want to come down to the end of the table, I'll have 10 minutes for your presentation. And Jessica's being heard with respect to report 4 and report 5.
Thank you for coming today. You can state your name
Yeah.
for the record.
Yeah, Jessica Peebles. It wasn't letting me join video, so I was close by, so I figured I'd just come. I didn't teleport here, I promise. Don't have those powers yet. Yeah, so I just wanted to come and speak to the board and also get a chance to speak to Mayor Gillingham with the board. Last time I was here, I said I was going to bring everything forward to your advisor. My mom ended up passing away 3 days after. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just provide your responses through the chair, please.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, in regards to the report that was listed for Indigenous women, I know there's a lot of needed additional support. I want to reiterate this from before when I said that there are some things that we're not stating when it comes to Indigenous women. My mom actually passed away. She was technically homeless and she was addicted to alcohol. And so she died technically a statistic, right? So I've been trying to fight for Indigenous women for a long time, and everyone's laughing at me saying, who are you fighting for? But I didn't want to cross the boundaries for my mom, but she's gone now. So I've fought really hard for Indigenous women, for my mom mostly. But I really want to speak to the Indigenous people on the board. We really need to start letting our leaders know that we need to start taking accountability for the things that we do for ourselves as well. We really need to start doing that. And there needs to be some supports. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
It's clean, I promise.
That's okay. I have a strong immune system. But we really need to stop pushing stuff under the rug and saying, people do this to us because I do this now because of this. Yes, I know, we know this stuff has happened to us, yes, but we can't keep being stuck back there because we're missing out on our future and it could be so bright. And the Indigenous leaders, they never get back to me. I purposely did this. I put my name in for mayor, put my name in for chief of police, and I tried to put my name in for the chief of Southern Chiefs organization, just to show how hard it is to get into contact with our own community members. And I was able to put my name in for chief of police and mayor of the city of Winnipeg, and I couldn't even get a call back to put my name in for chief of Southern Chiefs organization. So we're really failing our Indigenous people, and we need to start taking accountability for that. And in June, I called multiple organizations that say that they help with addictions and they say that they help with homeless, but nobody got back to me. So not only did this happen to me years before, when I tried to get support from my mom, it's not there either. So we really need to put this on the forefront because my mom she was a ER nurse. She was trying to get back into nursing. And when I was going through her belongings, this needs to be a joint with the province and with the city and being able to find people jobs, because my mom with her credentials as an ER nurse couldn't find a job. She went to the province to say, I need help getting support to go back to work. And she got put through the system. And I'm going through her paperwork. I'm like, how is she not just, somebody's not just making a phone call saying, we have a nurse here, let's get her work, get her through, get her out. No, she's put through in a line with everybody else. And I'm not saying she deserves special treatment, but she has credentials and we need nurses right now. Why didn't she get support when she was trying to get help? So if somebody with her types of credentials can fall through the cracks, well, I fell through the cracks, she fell through the cracks. This is people laugh at me, make fun of me because I fight so hard, but I knew that was gonna happen. It was just only a matter of time. And now she's gone, right? So I'll continue to fighting, but I just hope she get better. And I had this conversation with Jared Baker, your advisor, and I said, we need to come to the realization that there are people out there who aren't gonna get better. And what kind of supports do we have for them? We don't have anything for them besides going into personal care homes when your brain injuries get so bad, right? So we legitimately don't have anywhere to put some people who are homeless right now, especially the women. And it's easier for the women. It looks like we have more males on the street because it's easier for women to bounce around from a man's house to a man's house, couch surfing or whatnot. So there are a lot more people who are homeless right now that we don't see. I apologize for breaking down. I thought I was gonna be able to hold it in, but like I said, if people continue to laugh at me, they'll laugh at me. I really don't care. But I don't want to continue to lose people that I love. And this just seems like it's just constantly like funeral after funeral after funeral. Like where families make jokes. Hey, we'll see you at the next family reunion. It's a joke, but it's the reality. But I just sit there and I see my family doing the same things over and over and over, and they're expecting things to change. It's not going to change. If we don't take responsibility for how we are treating ourselves, our bodies, the people around us, we're destroying our loved ones. We're destroying ourselves. And like I said, people made fun of me about I made the comments about that Julio song in the past. I referenced the lyrics to that. But it's true. We've been doing this for a long time. And my mom, I was going through all of her records, nursing school, business, Mort Carmel Clinic, Aboriginal House, everywhere. She was gung-ho on fighting for residential school survivors. She was gung-ho on fighting for the health. That was back in the early 90s though. What are we still doing here? We're still doing the same thing. Why is it not getting better? It's getting worse. And so we're not coming at this the way that we should be. We got to think outside of the box because it's not helping. My mom did the exact same thing. I followed in her footprints because she was my hero. She's amazing. We're still doing the same thing. Nothing's gonna get better if we continue to do the same thing, especially for the Indigenous community members. We have to stop saying like our trauma did this to us. Yes, it did, because I have trauma now. I know that it changes you, but we still have to make that effort every day to be like, I don't want it to change me. Do you want the pressure to make you a diamond, or do you want the pressure to make you a hardened lump of coal? What pressure do you want? You have to go through more pressure to get to being a diamond. And that more pressure means getting up and getting out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself through that pressure. That's what we're not doing as community members. We're not pushing each other to push ourselves through the pain. It's like we're almost sitting back now and being like, we're survivors. This is us. Oh, woe is me. We're at that mindset right now. It's time to push it from survivors to thrivers to warriors. We have to get to that mindset or we're gonna lose more people. And I'm so tired of going to funerals. Like I don't even cry anymore. How can you cry if you keep going to them over and over? And same things over and over. Drug overdose, this, violence, all this, same thing. So I got mad at the community before for saying you pushed me out. But I'm still fighting not because I hate the community, but because I love the community so much that I'll keep fighting. And I don't care if people make fun of me and whatnot, but it needs to be said. And I really hope people can see and look in the mirror and see their value and see I deserve a good life. But I'm only gonna get that good life if I go out there and make that good life myself. Because I have access to my mom's emails. All of her emails stopped for everything when it comes to opportunities. Do you know why? Because opportunities don't find you. You find opportunities. So that's what we need to empower the Indigenous community members and especially the youth. Just push through the pain, become that diamond, and do what you want to do in this world. Build your own dream, you know? And like, if my mom and dad were able to imprint that in me, then we can imprint that in the youth.
Thank you very much for your presentation, showing incredible strength and sharing with us today. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Not so much a question, Jessica, but I've sat at this table for a few years now. And I have listened to you very intently, and I've seen your strength over the last couple of years. You're an incredible, amazing woman for the community you represent and that you live in. I need you to know that every time you come and talk, it leaves me with an impression that you do care. I'm sorry for the loss of your mom. Please continue to speak. Please continue to tell your story because you do matter. We all see you and we all appreciate you. So please, if you take away anything, it's not a joke. You come here and you tell us it matters. And I am so proud. If I can be proud, I don't know you all that well, but over the last couple of years of how strong you've become and how more meaningful your message. Today's message really touched me, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then Colleen, if I could just say back, like I said before, like when you're building that self-confidence, you almost need that validation from the external world in order to feel something a little bit. And not that I wanted to, but it's almost like I was doing that psychological experiment on myself because you can't do it on other people. It's not right? So I did it to myself. But I was never somebody who needed external validation until all that trauma happened to me. And then I realized, wow, I need someone to tell me I'm doing a good job. I need someone to pat me on the back and say, keep going, and I never understood that before. And I got that here. And not that I wanted to use the board for that. I still wanted to come forward and tell, you know, my lived experience and everything. But it was like, it was good for me too, because it helped push me to grow as well. So I want to say thank you to the board as well. And thank you for your work there.
Yeah, I wanna really thank you for being here, and being here last time as well. And to build on what Colleen was saying, that your voice does matter. And you are valued and heard at this table. And I share your pain. We're a lot alike in that way. My mother also died homeless and in addiction. You know, and our elders have said that transformational change is needed. That we need to really work at dismantling these systems and rebuilding them in a value-based way. And I know that certainly that's what inspires me to be here and to do the work that I've done throughout my career, is to work on that transformational change. And I have seen growth. Sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward and 10 steps back, but those 2 steps matter. And, you know, as I'm getting older, recognizing that there are ways in which we can move forward more quickly. And so I want to leave you with a message of hope as well, that there are many Indigenous leaders, not only here, but in our city, in our province, in our nation, who are really committed to that transformational change. And there's a role and a voice for all of us to play in that. And I certainly do my part, and I want to thank you for doing your part, because all of it means and gives us strength to move to those steps. And so I really hope that you leave here today with some hope. And I agree with you 100% with everything you have shared. We really need to move from just surviving to thriving. And it needs to be really driven and rooted in our values. And so thank you for bringing that message to the board. I think the more everybody hears it all the time, that it will just help us get to the next steps. So, miigwech.
David, go ahead, please.
Well, I know you, like myself and others, you know, we get frustrated at times. And I've been serving in my communities now in Ontario, here in Manitoba, and British Columbia for over 50 years now. And when you truly understand that Canada's history with our people and the different things that have been done to us systematically, it helps you appreciate what you're up against to bring positive change to any of us. But you need to know that Diane and myself, I can't speak for other leaders, but I work with Diane, and I know we're on the practical side of the equation. I don't sit in my office in the Negan Center trying to be a king. I try to do practical things on behalf of the community. I helped to establish the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Center of Winnipeg. It's still the only Indigenous community health center in this province. It's finally getting some real attention. It's put 2 mobile clinics now on streets to help our people. Now that's a start. Might not be enough, but it's a start. Yesterday it was announced that the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Center is establishing the first Indigenous-led safe consumption site in Canada. These are important changes because they give us a chance as Indigenous peoples, as First Nations, Métis and Inuit, to demonstrate to other Canadians that we can do things. And particularly we can do things with our people because we have the cultural competencies. We know our people. We speak their languages. And in the case of Winnipeg, we've been building that capacity almost over 70 years now. going back to 1958 was the start of the friendship center. So in life, there's no magic wand that I or you or anybody else can wave to change anything. We have to work at it, and we can't give up. Okay, and then we have to know that sometimes it's incremental. You know, there's many barriers that we face in trying to bring the kind of change we want. At the same time, we can't beat up other Canadians. Many Canadians are like you and me, they're frustrated, they struggle too. So we need to learn to come together. We were segregated, First Nations from other Canadians. We weren't even Canadians in 1876 when the Indian Act was put in place. Our rights were set aside by the Indian Act. We couldn't hire lawyers to protect our rights. We didn't get the right to vote till 1960 in a democracy. And you ask yourself, why? Well, there is an answer. And it's a historic thing. And if you ever want to understand it better, watch the two-part documentary, famous documentary that's called Exterminate All the Brutes. And guess who the brutes are? You and me, people of color and blacks. That's the history of the world, not just Canada. So this is the truth and reconciliation. And they're painful. And many of the people in the room here didn't put those systems in place, but we're living with them and they're hard to change. Last thing I'll say, right here now in Canada, we have legislation known as UNDRIP, which is different as night and day from the Indian Act. UNDRIP is about freedom, self-determination, self-government. And you can poo-poo those things, but I've been around long enough to know how different it is from the Indian. The Indian Act was about control of Indians and lands reserved for Indians. And the control was absolute. The Indian agent could have you arrested if you left your reserve without the pass. So we need to know these hard facts, and then we have to work to get agreement between all Canadians about these things and change them for the better. And there's a huge level of ignorance. I know for a fact that new Canadians who come to Canada are told very little about us at all. About the Indigenous people, the first people on this planet. We're trying to change that too. But we've got to keep working with it. So I too encourage you, keep speaking. Get involved in your community. Yes. And change is happening. Maybe not as fast as we like, but we're doing the best we can. Thank you.
So I say thanks for saying that. And my mom worked at the Aboriginal Health Wellness when she was a new nurse. So she loved it there. So I just want to let you know that.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further questions, thank you for your presentation, your heartfelt presentation this morning, and have a wonderful weekend.
And I'm again, you're right. I was frustrated. I am, because it feels like it is taking a long time. And I just want to say thank you for all your hard work that you've done in the community, all of you. And hopefully we can, continue to work so that we can slow the trend line of how many people we lose in the future. So I just really want to thank you all.
Thank you. All right, we'll start into reports. Report number 1 is the board chair's report for December 6, 2024. I would like to acknowledge my reappointment as chair of the Winnipeg Police Board by Mayor Scott Gillingham and council at the organizational meeting of council on November 6, 2024. At that meeting, Mayor Gillingham was also reappointed as a board member, and I look forward to continuing the work of the board with him into 2025. I would like to thank the board members for the support and continued work towards the safety for all citizens of Winnipeg. This year has certainly increased the demand for your time, and I appreciate the fact that you've risen to the challenge. On behalf of the board, I'd like to congratulate Shauna Curtin on her retirement effective January 2025. Shauna served as a secretary to the board from 2018, and we thank her for guiding the members over the last 6 years. We wish Shauna all the very best in her retirement. The recruitment for the next secretary to the board is in progress with the intention of having the successful candidate in the role by January of 2025. My report summarizes the events attended since the last public meeting on September 13th, 2024. On September 16th, I met with media with Global News on the hiring of the next chief of police. Also on the 16th, we had a committee meeting for the police chief recruitment committee. The board members met on the 23rd of September and participated in the CAPG webinar surveying the public attitudes towards the police with Chris Giacomantonio, long name. Also on the 23rd, I and the vice chair met with Grand Chief Jerry Daniels of the Southern Chiefs Organization as part of the consultation process for the recruitment of the next chief of police. Also met on the 23rd with Global News with respect to the meeting with Southern Chiefs called for a culture of change. On the 3rd of October, the police board had a meeting of the police chief recruiting committee. On the 4th, I, along with Mayor Gillingham and Secretary of the Board, attended the Retail Council of Canada event, the Retail Secures Manitoba Summit, which was very insightful. On the 11th of October, I was quoted in the Winnipeg Free Press article on the special duty policing. I'm not going to go through everything is online here in terms of the totality of meetings and appointments that I attended up until our meeting today. I'll just skip the rest of all of those meetings and just summarize the last part of it in saying that we continue to work diligently in terms of and a report. The next one of the reports that we have on here is about the police chief recruiting, but we as a board also decided to defer and delay the development of our 4-year strategic plan from 2025 to 2029 until the next chief has been hired. The Winnipeg Police Service will continue reporting on the basis of the 2024 strategic plan update through the WPS quarterly business plan. The board invites members of the public to provide feedback on the strategic plan update in writing or responding to the survey posted to the board's website. And I know that as a board, we have dedicated ourselves to reaching out to all areas of our community to get their input into the 2025 to 2029 strategic plan. This is the last public meeting of the Winnipeg Police Board for 2024, and I would like to thank the board members and staff for their support throughout the year. Wishing everyone a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. The next public meeting of the board is scheduled for March 7th of 2025. With that, I will need a motion to accept this as information. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. We'll go to report 2, report from the chief of police.
Morning. Trying to get over that during some presentation just now, it's really hits you right there in the heart and it's a great day. Anyways, it's my honor to be here today and my pleasure to be here today. You notice a different trend, I think, with me. I like to present my membership to you whenever I can, and especially at the public meetings. Today we have my little EMT, my morning meeting team. This is our leadership team, and I know you introduced them. John Virgil's here as well, and Kelly Dan. We meet every morning, and we also have other members of the police service that will be introduced when they come up during the presentation. But I couldn't do my job without all these people. They are a tremendous team. They really care about the service, but they also care about the citizens in Winnipeg as well. So I may be, the the person, you know, in the base of the service right now, but these are the actual workers and what they do for us. So that's why as long as I'm acting chief, they would be here with them, which is really important for them to be here with us. So thank you for that. I won't go through my report. There's a couple things I do want to highlight. One thing as acting chief, one of the greatest pleasures for me is getting out in the community. And I've been out in the community quite a bit in the last few months, and I'm meeting such wonderful people in so many different ways. And they just bring hope for the city and what we are, and they're dedicated, they're committed, they're just full of compassion, and they just want to make the city safer and vibrant as well. And the support for the police service, you know, you hear that, and non-support as well, you hear that as well. But it's just nice to get out in the community and talk to people, and I've had the occasion to do that quite a bit, and it kind of recharges you, and so I'm thankful for that. I'm not gonna go through my report or some other the business plan, but I want to highlight two things. We talk about when we arrest people, it's all you do is arrest people, and it's not all we do. We have other initiatives that we try to help people that do get arrested and try to get them some help or a different channel to get a different pathway. So I'm pleased to say to turn over to acting deputy chief and talk about a program that we have with gang prevention. So please.
Yeah. What I'll do just before I get started, I'll just call up Councilor Michelle DeGroot here to join me at the front here.
And if you could speak up loudly, I'm just straining to hear
Sure.
from this end.
Sure.
Please, thank you.
Okay. So again, so my name's Cam McKidd. I'm the superintendent of investigations with the service. My portfolio includes the Guns and Gangs unit, which is well known for their work in enforcement, traditionally seizing guns, firearms, street level enforcement initiatives, that sort of thing. Within the Guns and Gangs unit, though, we try to balance the traditional enforcement activities with gang suppression and gang prevention initiatives. And I'm here today with our gang prevention coordinator, or one of the two of them, Michelle DeGroot. She's a constable that spearheads that unit. Her partner, Garney McIntyre, is in the gallery here as well. So I want to talk to you about some of the very impressive work that they've been doing with respect to gang prevention. By way of very brief background, our gang prevention coordinator position, it's been in existence for a number of years, and it's been a one-person unit traditionally. Michelle has been there since 2021, and in Q3 of this year, we just added a second position, Garney, to assist Michelle with her workload, which has been exponentially increasing due to some initiatives she's been undertaking, which I'll speak to shortly, and hopefully she will as well. Officially, Michelle's role provides, I'll just read this, provides a proactive approach to gang suppression through the utilization of public and internal referrals involving at-risk individuals, and working with them to align government or community resources to meet their needs. So in theory, that sounds fairly simple. It sounds like a nice streamlined process, but in practice, it's actually very difficult work, and it takes a very special kind of person to do this work. As Diane and Daphne are likely aware, I actually wrote this last night, so it's sort of timely. This work can be frustrating, and often you feel that with every step forward, you take 2 steps backwards. I actually wrote this, and you actually said it to me. So I thought I'd comment on it. It can be very frustrating, but the success stories do come. They don't come easily, but they do come, and the work that Michelle and Garney are doing literally saves lives. So with that said, I want to highlight a few of the very creative initiatives that Michelle and Garney have been working on, which have yielded some really impressive results. And just before I segue to that, I also want to acknowledge the comments of Ms. Peebles, and my condolences again for her loss. It was very touching, and she hit on a number of points that are relevant to what we're talking about today. We're talking about doing something different, to use her words. The service has done that in a number of ways over the years that I've been involved in the Criminal Investigations Bureau, through counter-exploitation and missing persons, and the work that Michelle and Garney are doing. We're doing things differently. It's not traditional law enforcement. We're not devoting 20% of our resources to it, but we're devoting a 0.5% or 1%, and it's worth doing. You'll see some of the results, and it's very encouraging. So in my opinion, it's worth doing. It's not traditional police work, but it's hard to argue with the results as you'll hear shortly. I'll start with the Spirit Horse Boxing program. The Spirit Horse Initiative organization works with high-risk youth through action therapy, providing land and cultural training. Earlier this year, Michelle partnered with Spirit Horse to host a boxing program for high-risk youths on Tuesday evenings at their facility at 288 King Street. Spirit Horse has been an excellent partner, providing the facility and staff members, and professional boxing coaches have been brought in from Pan Am Boxing to lead these classes. The sessions are also attended by Elder Henry, who provides cultural-based messaging to the attendees. Michelle and Garney not only provide transportation to and from these sessions for the attendees, but they also participate in the sessions. They'll assist with the equipment setup, they'll assist with the training, they'll assist with cleanup afterwards. Whatever it takes to make the program successful, they're doing it, and they're doing it at all hours. These sessions have been very well attended, with approximately 25 at-risk youth and some adults attending these sessions on a weekly basis. Last week, the session had 40 people there, which is an incredible number. I've trained in different types of martial arts most of my adult life. I've never been to a class where there's been 40 people. That's a really high level of engagement, and it's encouraging that it's growing. The capacity was such that they added a second night now. So now having 2 nights a week for this activity, and hopefully Michelle can speak to some of the more personal stories that emerged from that. So the program's providing at-risk youth with a positive outlet through boxing that builds skills. It promotes self-confidence, discipline, and teamwork. It's an excellent example of collaboration between police and the community. The second one I'll touch upon here, another important partnership that Michelle has made is with Della Stanky, and she runs Mother Inc. tattoo removal program on Sargent Avenue. So every Friday morning, as part of this relationship, Michelle and Garney attend to Mother Inc. along with a number of at-risk youth, and they walk through the community, handing out food, clothing, and personal hygiene items to the community. These walks are made possible through support and donations from a number of community groups. The weekly walks have a positive impact in the community by addressing some of the immediate needs of the community and some disadvantaged communities, while also instilling a sense of empathy, community connection with the attendees. Again, we've got some fantastic pictures from the boxing and from this, just for confidentiality, I can't show them, but very touching to see the number of people involved and the impact it's having on the community. Again, the feedback from the youth and from the community has just been overwhelmingly positive, and this initiative is growing as well. In addition to the Friday community walks with Mother Inc., Michelle's also partnered with Della Stanky of Mother Inc. to provide a tattoo removal service for inmates at Headingley Correctional Institution. This initiative works in conjunction with a program offered at Headingley called Winding River, which is designed to support inmates who are showing a genuine interest in exiting gang life. So how it works is inmates who actively participate in the Winding River program become eligible for the gang tattoo removal program, which is run by our coordinators in cooperation with Della Stanky. The program offers free on-site gang tattoo removal, which can involve up to 10 to 30 sessions depending on the size of the tattoo. So during these sessions, our coordinators engage in meaningful interactions with the participants, and it fosters familiarity, and they can build trust. And these conversations are crucial for understanding each individual's unique circumstances and identifying their needs in terms of successful rehabilitation. To date, over 77 inmates at Headingley have been involved in this program, and there's currently a very long waiting list for further engagement. With the success of the tattoo removal program at Headingley, it was recently expanded to the Manitoba Youth Center, where 42 incarcerated youth joined the program as well as Women's Correctional in Headingley, where over 40 inmates joined the program in the first month alone. In terms of some general numbers with respect to the work Michelle and Garney do, they're currently working with 82 high-risk individuals who are looking to leave the gang life and build better lives for themselves. And they utilize over 20 community agencies to meet the needs of these individuals. I spent a few hours over the past couple of weeks preparing for this with Michelle and Garney. And it's truly inspirational talking to her. So I don't want to dominate all the time that we have today. I'd like to segue to Michelle eventually for some questions. She's a wealth of knowledge. Again, it's inspirational. I've got a couple letters that I'd like to share with you, but they've been redacted, but just for the sake of time, I might get those to you somehow after this. But it's very, I think it'd be very valuable for you to hear stories of a couple of these individuals who've written letters to the chief of police, expressing their thanks for how the work that Michelle and Garney has impacted their lives. So we'll try to get those to you. I think it'd be valuable for you to read those. So with that, I'd like to maybe just turn it over to questions, and hopefully we can involve Michelle in the conversation a bit, and she could speak on a more intimate basis as to what she's doing. And again, I'm just touching on a few of the things that they're doing. They've got a broad portfolio. They're very busy. When I tried to reach Michelle to have a sit down to prepare for this, it was a Monday of last week. I sent an email to her, and she said, I can fit you in Friday at 3:30. So she's very busy. So with that, myself or Michelle will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions, board members?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you both for being here and for your presentation today. Wondering, maybe Michelle, when you're working with individuals who are either, you're trying to prevent entrance into a gang or exiting a gang, backing up, or like, what do they talk about as far as being their entry points? If such and such, obviously everyone wants to work towards diversion, absolutely, right? So what do you see as the diversionary moments in people's lives?
They mostly talk about the traumas that they will have faced growing up, the lack of supports, and role models, and that these people, these gang members, show them a level of support or family, hey, we've got your back, that they've never felt before. And so they're easily gravitated to these individuals who will, supply them with a fancy clothes or fast cash, right? And not until they're in that gang life do they realize kind of the trap that they're in. And so for us, it's really unique being able to be in the jails. That's often a time that someone reflects over their life, right? Or in hospital. We also work with social workers in the hospital for when they're shot or stabbed, so we meet them there as well. But yeah, so it's a very unique place where we can meet them, come in with Della, so she gives us a little street cred, and we are able to meet them each week while they do their tattoo removal and just start to learn about themselves, about what traumas they've had and what barriers they may face when they're getting out of jail, what problems would make them go back to that life, maybe education, employment, housing, any of those types of things, and try to help them connect them to the organizations that can help them out. We also, we've had male individuals who have left Headingley and started to rehabilitation behavioral health. And we're able to even take them out from there after a certain time that they're there, and they come to our boxing program and they're well on their way they've left the gang life, they're well on their way for rehabilitation. And it's great to see the impact they have on our youth, holding up the pads with these youth that are trying to get out of gang life, and they see the real person with the tats and, the real deal of the gang life, that this person's saying, hey, this is what my life was like, and I'm out of it, and give them advice too. So it's a beautiful connection seeing them at the boxing program.
My other question is age range. What age range are you seeing of the folks you're working with?
Anywhere, I think maybe our oldest would be 30. And we do have some referrals for young kids at 10. We usually meet the younger ones away from the program at first and do event one-on-ones with them and activities with them to kind of decipher if they're ready to come to the boxing program or if that maybe is not the right choice.
I was not with this group, but a quick comment and then I'll turn to others. I was invited to join a group of an organization that helps men as they're coming out of prison, kind of I'll call it a step down place, kind of a halfway community. And it was a little intimidating for me to go in to meet with all of these guys. And we opened up to question and answer. I said, sure. And I didn't know what question I would get. And all of the gentlemen that came around, and the dominant question was, when are you going to fix the Arlington Bridge? So that was that was a question.
Yeah. Well, we invite anybody out to come check out the program. Yeah, we'd love any of you to come out on Tuesday evenings and see that dynamic.
Just another quick comment. Michelle's very humble, but she's attended to a number of conferences across Canada and the United States. And invariably when she attends, what we're doing here is unique. And she's regularly asked, she's been asked to present in the United States at a conference next year as a result of sort of speaking to what we're doing here in Winnipeg. So it's attractive to other law enforcement agencies when they see the proactive direction that we're going here. So we're very proud of it. And it's as Michelle said, any board member is welcome to come out and witness firsthand sort of the success of the program.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Diane.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. First, thank you for doing this work. It's important work. It helps people rebuild their lives and move forward. And I would just like to get a sense of the roles and responsibilities of everybody that's involved. And there's a reason I'm asking that. So the role of community organizations that are involved, because they can be there for the long term as somebody is, so that they're connected to community resources. And my second question is around who is, are there resources coming from the Winnipeg Police to support these projects? And then the third question is, are there any barriers that you experience through pulling all of these pieces together that within the Winnipeg Police? Because we want to encourage these to continue to happen. And if there are barriers that the board needs to be aware of that limit your opportunity to enter and partner with community organizations in a meaningful way to benefit people, we'd like to hear that.
For the first question, we aren't able to meet these youth, right? When we do the tattoo removal. And they often, after they're showing of good behavior and they're doing their programming in school, we get the ability to take them out of Manitoba Youth Center on what's called a reintegration leave. And that's when we are able to pick them up and we take them to these community organizations and action therapists that will work with them long term and will facilitate that and work in collaboration, right? So example for Spirit Horse, we'll do the boxing program in collaboration with them and get them used to these action therapists through there that can continue on when we're, working with other youth as well. So we make sure that it is long lasting.
I can speak to one of your points as well. If I'm reading between the lines, some of our positions in policing are transient somewhat. We have a transfer policy. And Michelle, as good as she is, and Garni, eventually we'll probably rotate out of these positions. Some of this work as I said earlier, it takes a special type of person, and we've been fortunate to have found two of them. So I would, as the one that oversees this area, after seeing the impact Michelle and Garni have made on an interpersonal level with this number of people, I would advocate for them staying in their positions as long as possible. So I'm not sure if I think that might have been where you were going with that, but yeah, so we do have a transfer policy. There's a lot of movement. There are exceptions made from time to time in certain circumstances. I would view this as one. We've got a lot of relationship building that's happened. So to move somebody prematurely who's made those connections wouldn't be prudent in my view. So I think that's what you're
Yeah, I experienced that myself where you get to know somebody for 2 years and then all of a sudden you got to get to know somebody all over again for another 2 years.
We're cognizant of it, and in areas like this, we have discussions and we try to do what's best for the organization and the community. So it's a discussion that is relevant here.
So other than the staffing costs, are there other budget expenses that?
It's partially funded. The position we just brought on, the province has funded the new position we brought on. There is funding that we pull from some federal guns and gangs funding. So I don't think funding is an issue for us, unless I'm speaking to Chair Michelle.
No,
funding projects?
we're good. I've so far for what we've got planned. I just want to tell you like a short little story, but we work with a youth male who at Manitoba Youth Center, and he comes out with us who's gone through the trauma of losing his parents at a young age and grew up in group homes and foster homes and never felt those connections and entered a street gang, well-known street gang in Winnipeg that does very violent crimes, but it's a lot of group home youth and foster homes. And he's really embraced our program, and it's so beautiful to see. We've had a very strong connection, and we've set him up with an action therapist that he will have kind of like a big brother for when he does exit. And we're actually going to be having he gets out on just before Christmas, so we're having a Christmas Eve. We're gonna spend Christmas Eve. We've have a turkey dinner ready for 30 youth, and we've got a Christmas tree. And so we had a night out where we just made Christmas decorations for the tree, and he wrote "Freedom, I'm home." And I said to him, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, when I see this next, it's going to be on Christmas Eve, and I'll be out, and this is my new home. I've got a new family here. That's a community." And I was tear. Okay, I'm not crying, but I am. But it just shows how much you can make a change and how they can grasp onto these supports, whether it's us in the community. And I asked him, like, why were you hanging out? Because I had no one else to hang out with, Michelle. I had no one else that would be my group. And I believe in this male that he will stay with us and outside of that group. So
I think it's great that we can play a role in making those initial connections.
Right.
And really want to stress the importance of the linking and partnering with community-based organizations who are going to be that safety net
I agree.
for that young person for the long term.
Yeah.
And that's, so just really want to emphasize that.
Yeah. Thank you for your work. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much for the work you're doing. I've always and publicly in the past have talked about the opportunity that exists when kids are in custody, and the counseling of the work program and how hard the kids fought to try to keep that, and the need for increased mental health in that facility and the opportunity that's there. The kids have so much to teach us, and I learned so much from them. They are the experts on where the solution is. And if we can check our egos at the door and listen with the intent of understanding and seeing them as valuable, they will show us the answers. And I've learned that over and over again. And I think that these kind of programs are so valuable because they, when we've gone in and I've spoken to them and they feel seen and heard, there's the value that they get. And that is incredible. And thank you for your work. Thank you so much. It's great. Thank you.
I just kind of have to, just quickly, who funds Spirit Horse? Let me know at a later date. Then. How's that? That's great. That's okay, no problem. I just going, oh, sorry.
I'm not positive, but I believe their action therapist is through Jordan's principal.
Oh.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure about the whole. So
that's fine. Yeah, just maybe at the next time we meet, the chief can let us know some information for that. So I'm just going through the chief's report, Mr. Chair. I look at the one area called reducing priority calls for service and what has transpired and what those numbers look like. Can you talk a little bit about where are we currently with our call for service? We know that there's been extensive pressure over the time, but where are we today? How does this fit into reducing that, which of course it does, but what are we seeing today?
Okay, so are we finished with this presentation?
Well, no, I have a question, a related question.
Yeah, exactly. I apologize, everybody.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation this morning and related speaking. I've had the opportunity to work with Garnier. Seen him more in uniform, so I was a little surprised to see him today. But good luck.
Thank you.
The program that you talked about, the boxing program, it's great that we've discussed teamwork today. Chief Standard, Acting Chief Standard talked about it in terms of this executive team. Was brought up again with respect to, working in teams in this boxing program that you have going. My question specifically, and I was part of a team last week that my role was to open the gate as the women scored. But with respect to the program, the boxing program, are there programs available for women who are part of gangs? And what initiatives around that? Because we do know that there are women that are part of gangs as well.
You know, we do actually have we have females that attend the boxing program as well. We actually have a female that has left gang life, that comes in. She's another story if we have a second. But, she ran away when she was young, when she was 12 years old, learning that her parents were her adoptive parents and the rest of the family was, it was a surprise to her. So she ran away and unfortunately came in the hands of the Bloods gang. And from 14 to 16 exploited her and gave her the tattoo, the stamp of that she's one to be exploited, and she was addicted to meth. And I met her through an organization called Eagle Embracing You. They contacted me and I would go pick her up and just take her for a lunch. She didn't want to have too much to do with me, but it was just a free lunch and time for me to talk and with her. And over time, we've developed a relationship, a trust. She ended up having a warrant. She called me and says, "Can you deal with this warrant with me, Michelle? Like, so I know I'm with you, I'll feel more comfortable." So I said, "Okay, as long as you don't mind." So I did the arrest for her. And then after that, took her for coffee. And I had set up, while she was there, for an AFM person to come and got her into Compass treatment, where she's now 2.5 years sober. She's coming to our boxing program. She's getting that removed. That's tattoo. So it's just so we do work with a lot of females as well. And it's beautiful how all these organizations did come together, right, to facilitate that.
Great, thank you. All right, any other questions?
I just want to commend both of them. These are the type of jobs that police service that when you give your card with your name on it, it's for a long time. Like, you're telling that person, "I'm there for you 24 hours a day." And both of these members work endless hours, off duty, on duty, and with such compassion, dedication. So when they hand their card, it's saying, I'm forming a partnership with your relationship with you, and I'll be there for you. And that comes, it comes with a cost of their well-being and their.
The youth all have my personal cell. People say, but yeah, they all have my personal cell.
And they get such, rewards, or they make us look so positive and good service. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just the second position is funded by the federal government, not the provincial government. I don't want to yell at me or this meeting, so that's part of it. So thank you for that. So your question now? Yeah. I love exactly, Chief. We have Superintendent Brian Mill. As you know, he's tasked with call management, and I think the question you're asking today we talk about under the plan response part of it. So welcome.
Yes, thank you. So good morning, everyone. Morning. Yeah, so I think I heard your question. You're looking at some of so I saw the report in the chief's report, or at least the paragraph in the chief's report. Just looking to expand on that, is that?
Yeah, like this is a component of it, but overall, what I'm looking for is, like I said, we hear and we report that our call for service is quite high or has been quite high from time. Where are we today? I want to get a little more sense of and how this work that you're doing ties into that.
Yeah, for sure. So so our call for service, our call volumes, it is front and center, something that we are paying very close attention to. So probably about 1.5 years ago, and I know I did a presentation to the board when we were over in the other space about, and it was really at the beginning stages of this, the Planned Response and Service Enhancement Project. So again, we're looking at I'll call it one narrow piece of the pie, the overall pie, but plan response has been very beneficial to us in the sense of being able to take certain types of calls, the correct type of calls that fit the matrix, and move them into a different model of response. So just to speak a little bit further to that, so I'm going to break it down into two pieces. So plan response was the first part of this project, but the other part of it, the second half of the title, is service enhancement. So in terms of planned response, so it falls under my portfolio, which is Division 31. So we have a variety of different resources within the division, within our planned response division. So we have telephone response, we have our members at headquarters at our station duties, we have report cars, we have our virtual police response. So we have a number of different units which we use to look after the planned response side of the house. What I would say is this isn't something new in the sense that we have been using planned response, but I can say that we're using it much more strategically now. So the sergeant who oversees Division 31, one of his responsibilities at the beginning of the day is to go into the queue and to start picking out the calls which are suitable for these types of responses. And then what he does is he subtypes them and assigns them to the various units as to which would be most appropriate. So an example is our virtual police response. It has really transformed the way that we respond to break and enters for the better. People who are reporting break and enters are getting quicker, more efficient service. They're getting their needs met much faster, in the sense that someone may have had to wait days before, where they have a break-in, they have a window, a door, and they don't know if they can touch it. They don't know if they can repair that. Now, with the various video platforms on the phones, our members can connect to them literally face-to-face, virtually, but face-to-face, and they can turn the camera and show them and say, no, you can fix that. There's nothing suitable for fingerprinting. There's nothing suitable for forensics. So with those successes, we are looking at expanding the categories as to what may be suitable for those sort of things. So I'll just give you one very quick example, and then I'll move on. So another example is the way that we respond to the different security services within the retail sector. So if the tradition floor walkers, if they catch somebody shoplifting, so one of the biggest issues, even though we've put procedures in place to streamline that, one of the biggest issues is the identification of the person. So oftentimes the people do not have identification on them, but we're looking at ways at, can we have a look at the person who has been apprehended for theft? Can we compare that to a potential photo that we may have on our system to satisfy that part of it, and then the person can be released for summons? Instead of having someone like that, we would have to have a car go down, right? So we're looking at different ways of expanding some of these programs that have been very successful. Something else that we have done from a strategic approach is that we had our report cars. So they attend to, so it's one officer units that attend to various calls for service where it actually needs a face-to-face response. What we've done is we've centralized all of those services. So we've really realized some great efficiencies with that. They were working out of the headquarters, but then they were also working out of our District 2, 3, and 4 stations. But it made it very difficult to actually coordinate that person's work during the day. So that's something else that we've done. Now, in terms of, so that's the planned response side of the house. In terms of the second part, as I mentioned, planned response service enhancement. So just a couple of things that we've done, and I heard it mentioned earlier today about, somebody mentioned about record checks. if you ever drove by the headquarters building, even a year and a half ago, two years ago, I noted it when I was walking to the building, sometimes at 5 a.m, I would see these massive lineups and I always wondered, what is that about? What, like, is it people looking? Well, about 95% of that was people coming in for record checks. So that's a thing of the past. I'm very happy to report that now. That these massive lineups that people would get bogged into, and some people, I was hearing stories that they would have to take the day off from work or half a day off from work just to prepare for this to get service. We've moved into the online portal now. We have a third-party vendor, which we've had a lot of success with, and those wait times have diminished greatly. We're able to do most of that work online, and we don't have to have people coming in to our station duty anymore. Another initiative which we've just sort of spin off from that is we have introduced a queue management system within our headquarters building. So when people come in, it's a very modern system. I don't know if anyone shops at IKEA, but you see it if you go to do a return at IKEA, you can scan a QR code, and it's a very slick system. Which tells you where you are in the queue. It allows you to do other things in the interim, and it tells you how much longer it's going to be before your time comes up. Another really good benefit of this system is the amount of data and metrics. It's called the Waitwell system. So all of our planned response, walk-in response, all of that, telephone response, everything is captured in the system. And the metrics that is able to push out to us, so we can see and adjust on the fly as to what is creating the highest demand for service. Is there things that we can shift? Do we have a lot of people calling in on telephones one day and not so much coming in person, especially on the weekends? We see that, so we can shift our resources on a very fluid basis back and forth between those two resources. And then the last thing I will mention is, and it kind of crosses into Superintendent Delal's area, but and it is to do with the Mayor's AI project. We were one of the successful candidates through the Mayor's project with a company, HyperU has been awarded a contract, and it's a AI solution, and it's very impressive. We saw a demonstration on it, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, where our non-emergency calls are going to be entering this system. It is, again, I was flabbergasted with the ability of this system. Just very quickly, as an example to demonstrate this, somebody, one of the calls that they demoed on the test side is that they were calling in to report damage to their property. When the person called in, they said, yeah, you know what, we think we know who this is, and it's related to a dispute through my work. I think these are and then it says, okay, I'm going to refer you to a online resource in order to report that through our online reporting portal, and it's going to step you through all of that information. It says, oh, you know what, actually they said that they actually may show up at our house. The system within 2 seconds was able to recognize that the threat level on that had changed. And it said, hold the line, I'm putting you through to a call taker. Incredibly powerful system. Again, we expect it's going to be going online quite soon. But of course, we'll have more of a communication package on that. So you can well imagine the benefits to that. In terms of having our call takers in our communication center be able to focus on true emergencies.
It just call for a pause. I'd like to just state that this is the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women, and is commemorated in Canada on December 6th. This day is about remembering those who have experienced gender-based violence and those who have we have lost to it. Today, we honor the memories and stand alongside survivors who show incredible strength and resilience every single day. We'd like you to, those that are here today, to rise and stand and observe a moment of silence with respect to the women that we lost in Montreal. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Through you then, a lot of great initiatives. Thank you for highlighting all those and the ongoing work that the service is doing to reduce priority calls and then kind of dispatch, better responses that provide customer service and a faster response to everybody for their respective call. If you could just, one request I would have then related to that use of the AI, if you could just in advance, just, let the board know and certainly let, as mayor, let my office know when that's gonna go live. I think that's something to, I know you'll have a communications plan around it, but if you don't mind, just like, at least a day before or something, if I can ask, that would be important for the board to know and certainly as mayor, my office know too.
Yeah, I'd like to, if it hasn't been done already, I think it's really important we put together a group of Indigenous people to kind of flush out some of the calls that may be coming in that may be not captured properly by AI.
Okay.
I think it'll be a good exercise to go through whether AI matches some of the communication from an Indigenous person and how that gets translated into a response.
Sure.
It may be different, and it'll be really important that we fix any discrepancies and improve AI to ensure that when an Indigenous person calls, that their needs are getting met.
Right.
So let's just do a double check.
Yeah, for sure.
With respect to the virtual reporting, and it's great that, we have the mechanism now to, connect through a platform and with a camera, show the area that has been impacted. It can be fixed or repaired if it's a break-in, which expedites the process. But again, in terms of needs, values, and expectations, I'm certain that residents of Winnipeg have an expectation that it's also going to be investigated. How far down the line does that investigation piece happen?
Yeah, so there would be really two parts to that. The first would be the actual, do we have an investigational path? Is there an investigational lead? So if the scene itself was something that was suitable for forensics, that is going to be our best opportunity to identify a suspect if there is no other information available. So if the scene is in fact suitable for a forensic examination, they are the turnover is pretty good with that in terms of the time frame from the initial report to the time that someone attends there. We've also expanded our forensics. It's called the SOCO program, SOCO, Scenes of Crimes Officer. So it's members who work in our one officer units in our report cards who are given the basic skills of forensic identification, so fingerprinting, photographing, just some of the very low level stuff, but that can prove very valuable for the investigation. So that's another way that because our identification unit, as you can well imagine, is stressed in terms of volumes due to the response to violent crime. So it's another small tool that we put into the hands of our planned response people, where they have a kit. It's all equipment that was not used anymore by our identification section, and they're able to conduct some of those basic forensic identification procedures at the scene itself. So once that package is together, then it goes over to Superintendent Cam McKidd's side in the property crimes unit for an investigation and to see if there is a lead on the suspect or suspects.
Thank you. Any additional questions, board members? Thank you for your presentations.
Yes, you're welcome. Just before I step away, one last stat. So as of, I think this is important, as of November 27th, we have, through all these initiatives, we have diverted 22,749 calls that would have otherwise ended up in the queue, and it would have been general patrol response.
So the answer to my response is decreasing.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but we could be missing.
No, I know.
So they reached a peak at 440 calls not too long ago, but it's down. I would say right now, it's ranging between mid 150 to 200. Sometimes a little bit lower, sometimes a little bit higher. This initiative really helps the morale of GP to come in and not to look at 400 calls and say, you gotta make a difference out there. But I was told by members one day, the calls were a little bit lower. I said, oh, great, they're lower. And they said, yeah, we're really happy about that. But the ones that are in the queue are the ones with the guns and the weapons and the knives and the high-risk and stuff like that. They're still dealing with those ones as well. But at least they see it, and it's not so unmanageable.
Yeah, and this is going to be step one of a bigger overall look at queue management, call volumes.
So in essence, there are resources that are employed more so on the serious and violent crimes, less so on the everyday break-ins and things like that.
You know, it's sad to say, in reality, they really didn't get to those calls for sometimes days. And so this initiative is letting us get to them right away. They sat in the queue for a long time, so they always were dealing with the high-risk high calls, high-risk calls and stuff like that. This is similar to what we do with ARC and domestic violence, this kind of philosophy. And I'm pleased to announce other units in the police service helping out to sex crimes. We'll look at the queue and take them out before dispatch, fraud, guns and gangs, TAC unit even. Other people are now saying, hey, we need to help the queue too. We need to do our work as best we can. So thank you, Brian, for that. I don't know if you want to stay here because one of the other things, impaired driving has always been a concern for the Winnipeg Police Service and the citizens. We work very hard with our partners to address impaired driving. I have a presentation right now. There's lots of changes with impaired driving. I think, it'd be nice to tell you about them. So, Brian?
Yeah, thank you. So it's my pleasure to introduce Patrol Sergeant Stefan Fontaine, who works in the traffic division, which falls under my portfolio. Also with us today is Commander of Traffic Division, Inspector Mark Philippou. Steph has put together, Steph is our impaired countermeasures coordinator. Two things here. He has put together a presentation just to highlight some of the, I would call it an ongoing battle that we are having on the streets with impaired driving. And I'm not just talking about alcohol anymore. The fact that cannabis products are now legal in Canada has really affected the safety on our roadways. And Steph is going to talk about that, but I think this is also an incredible opportunity because Steph, I would say, really highlights in the flesh, I'll say, of hundreds and hundreds of members who have a passion and dedication to the safety of Winnipeggers, to their jobs. And Steph, he really embodies that. So I'm really happy that he was able to join us today, and I look forward to his presentation.
Thank you, everyone for having me here this morning. Part of the WPS traffic safety strategy promotes a responsible driving through enforcement and education, with a focus on speeding, distracted driving, and ultimately impaired driving, which is why I'm here today. Now, road safety is also partly supported by various external agency partnerships that we have. Some examples of this, although not limited to, would include agencies like Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. They sponsor our festive check stop program, which, as we all know, targets impaired drivers in the month of December. So they contribute funds to help offset some of those costs. We continue to work alongside the RCMP as well with some joint check stop enforcement projects through the month of December. And we'll focus our attention on the perimeter highway when we join up with the RCMP, especially since we've taken over some of the perimeter highway as our responsibility. So we'll do several joint operations with them as well. Another big partnership we have is with MPI. They fund a program called Road Watch, which is basically a check stop, or our target is, again, combating impaired driving throughout the year. And they also, starting at the beginning of this year, helped fund a new campaign specific to drug impaired driving enforcement. And we had a very successful campaign at the beginning of this year, so January 2024 through January, February. I'll talk a little bit about those results as well. And lastly, we work alongside a lot of our media outlets to assist in promoting our messaging and our ultimate road safety messaging. And we do this usually I do this by accommodating a lot of different interviews in person or on the radio, such, just to again expand or get our message out as much as possible. Our message, of course, is not to drive while being impaired. Now, one of these kind of unique little opportunities with the media will happen, I believe, this weekend. We have CGOB's Richard Colucci joining us for a little ride along. So that will give himself and his listeners a little bit of a first-hand look at to what a check stop evening looks like. And hopefully that'll provide some education information to his listeners. On the topic of check stop, so that's the festive annual check stop program that happens every day throughout the month of December with our traffic division, our general patrol members, and then with additional resources with the highly visible and highly effective focus on impaired driving enforcement and messaging throughout the festive season, because we know the likelihood of people celebrating and potentially consuming alcohol or any other drug is quite popular during this time. So again, it just fits that we ramp up our messaging as well. Again, we're trying to promote road safety for everyone. Just this week, we did our launch alongside the RCMP and having some representation from the MAD Canada Winnipeg chapter there as well. And at that launch, I took the opportunity to advise the public of our intended use of something called mandatory alcohol screening. And basically what that is this year, every single driver that is stopped as part of our check stop program will be required to provide a sample of their breath utilizing an approved screening device to detect any presence of alcohol. Now, one may ask, well, why does mandatory alcohol screening exist? Well, since 2018, when they did a big update to the criminal code, the authority was added, and it allows us to test every driver for the presence of alcohol. Now, some of the research that is out there shows that officers often miss impaired drivers through lineups, as much as only detecting 1 in every 4 drivers under the influence. So by introducing mandatory alcohol screening, we're going to ensure that we don't miss anyone that's potentially under the influence. Now, the way I kind of describe it is the drunk driver that we all imagine, they're easy to detect. But the impaired driver, the driver that's under the influence, is much more difficult to detect, yet they are just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, on our roadways. So mandatory alcohol screening is one of the tools that we have to really increase our ability to catch these drivers before they injure anyone. Now, you kind of have to look at, well, how bad is our impaired driving problem? I can say year to date, there's already more than 400 criminal code impaired driving incidents in the city of Winnipeg. And that, unfortunately, is an increase of 14% from last year around this time. And we still have 1 month left to go. Now, I suspect that some of the contributing factors is exactly the use of mandatory alcohol screening, the use of drug screening equipment is helping officers in their ability to detect these impaired drivers. So it's pretty easy to say, the more we test, the more we will find. Now, the Traffic Injury Research Foundation, or TIRF, they conducted a study related to drug use and fatal collisions in Canada. Now, going back from the year 2000 to 2021, when they reported, did their research, they found that drug-related traffic fatalities increased from 10.7% to 37% in 2021. And one of those key findings from a drug-impaired driving enforcement point of view was that behind alcohol, cannabis was the most frequently detected drug and fatally injured drivers. So that obviously seems to support that when you consume a particular drug, it will affect your ability to drive. So when the decision to legalize cannabis occurred, I knew that I now have a new legal drug that is available on the market and is completely legal, but has the potential to cause harm as it pertains to impaired driving. So I decided to do kind of launch my own drug impaired driving campaign to ultimately decide or to see if it will produce me with the stats to support the fact that we all suspect with the legalization of cannabis will come a problem with drug impaired driving. So I launched a pretty intense drug impaired driving campaign, which over January and February, we had 12 dates, and they focused on traffic coming to and from any one of the 117, I think, dispensaries we have in the city of Winnipeg. Ultimately, as a result of that, we ended up testing 148 drivers, and we found that 43% were found positive for recent consumption of cannabis. One of them even tested positive for cannabis and cocaine. That's one in almost every other driver. So that is extremely concerning, and if it didn't raise any eyebrows, I would be completely surprised. In addition to the enforcement campaign, we also did a huge extent awareness, public awareness campaign through different messaging, through all the different social media platforms, radio, and it had different images like you see on the screen here. They were on different billboards throughout the city. And again, our message was simple: don't drive high. It's dangerous. It's detectable and definitely illegal. So we pushed that messaging over and over for the month of February. In addition, we had a 15-second public service announcement, so a commercial that we created, and it'll play for you guys now.
Aye.
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 Don't drive high. It's dangerous, detectable, and definitely illegal.
So before I conclude, I want to say that based on the success of this year, the 2024 drug impaired driving campaign, is we will launch our second consecutive drug impaired driving focus campaign coming this January, February, March of 2025. And we will also support it with, again, a strong public awareness campaign. We're actually working on a part 2 of our commercial that will build from the initial one that you just saw. We're going to create yet another 15-second commercial to, again, focus on the dangers of cannabis in an edible format. Another kind of neat thing that we do, we collaborated with True North Sports and Entertainment, and we're going to do some advertising through the use of digitally enhanced dasher boards, or DEDs. And what that is basically through several Winnipeg Jets games, we're going to have our messaging appear on the boards around the ice throughout the game, and that's huge coverage. Over 200,000 people will see that "Don't Drive High" messaging, which I think was a first for NHL to have that type of messaging. So that's kind of cool as well. Some residual federal government funding will cover some of that media and ad campaign, the costs involved with that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of results we get through that campaign as well.
Thank you for that presentation. Just a quick question from my part. There's this change in policy with respect to mandatory breathalyzers. The data is going to be a little bit different from previous years. So are you using this year as a baseline in terms of all of the drivers that you test, and then bringing that forward as new data?
Yeah, so the data will change a little bit, especially since although mandatory alcohol screening will be up front and center at 100% of our stops, the reality is we've actually been doing mandatory alcohol screening to a certain extent up until then. So it's not a completely brand new approach. just that it will be 100% of people that we come across. So the big difference is instead of saying we tested some people, the ultimate result will be that we tested everyone. Going forward, I expect that this will be our method of operation. And if we're just looking at check stop, this will be kind of the base year for that. Now, having said that, Road Watch program that runs throughout the year, we were basically doing about 90% mandatory alcohol screening already. So this type of data that we're already seeing a reflection of, and we see it by our numbers because we do have an increase in the people that we're coming across.
Thank you. Please.
Go ahead. I just, a quick question about resources. So if you've already been doing this, then there really isn't your complement of who participate, the members that participate throughout December on this Check Stop program shouldn't increase because you've already been doing it. Is that correct?
Yes, so basically the Check Stop program, every night, obviously our traffic enforcement officers that work every day do impaired driving enforcement. There's a dozen days throughout December that we have additional resources just to ramp up our efforts. But that's something that we've been doing year after year. So it's not a new expense.
Yes, so is this the cannabis check? Is this the first year that we're doing it?
No, so we've had the equipment and the capability to use drug screening equipment since its implementation in 2018. Now, there's a slight difference. The drug screening is not a mandatory, that is not a mandatory check. So the officers still have to form the suspicion or believe that there's cannabis on board before they opt to do that test.
Well, secondary question, so the government of Canada in deciding to legalize marijuana and the early research and I guess disclosure, was there any indication at that time that there would be issues using, cannabis? And now what you're having to
I would suspect that they expected it to potentially increase because at the same time they in 2018 when they revamped the criminal code, they introduced the drug screening equipment as part of that. So that was new. We didn't have that prior to 2018. They rewarded some of the offenses. They included the ability for officers to demand blood for the purposes of testing for drugs specifically. That was new as well. So they did, in some part, include some additional powers for police to be able to investigate a potential drug impaired driving increase.
The federal government at the time also made funding available to police to increase training.
That's right. So they also all kinds of specific impaired driving and drug impaired driving training that is offered for our officers, whether it's field sobriety testing or the drug recognition evaluation program, and ultimately these drug screening tools that we now have accessible. The federal government provided some funding to do that training.
So this screening is not mandatory?
No.
It is for alcohol?
Alcohol is mandatory, drug is not.
So the data indicating as yet that the number of people who use cannabis legally. How would that compare to people who drink?
Well, alcohol is by far the most abused drug out there, and it has been forever. But as the research is coming out, cannabis seems to be the next one behind.
Maybe one question for the acting chief. What would the services position be on sort of encouraging the federal government to mandate screening of cannabis?
I think something like that will be just, don't want to get police service along. If we felt a need to do that, we'll probably go through first National Chiefs of Police Association and then Canadian Chief of Police. So we will take that back, and we'll look at different issues. So that's something we could take back and see, but we wouldn't do that alone. We definitely do with our partners, first through Manitoba and Canada. So.
Quick follow-up question. Are there different demographics between those that are cannabis users and those that are alcohol users that you're seeing on the roadways?
I don't have that information.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation this morning.
Well, I want to thank you as well. I think his presentation shows a passion, commitment, and dedication that he has for this, and he's a very important part of the service on this. I think our it's 11:30. I think I would ask for adoption of the chief's report. If there's any other questions at all.
Okay, I'll move it. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. On to the report, which is report from the Secretary to the Board. Again, it mirrors a lot of the report from the chair, so it's online and accessible. So if I can have Colleen, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. On to report 4, a report from the Police Chief Recruitment Committee, which I have here with me. Again, the attachment is online that we've met in October and November for first and second interviews. Further, we finalized our questioning or questions that we posed to the candidates. Myers Norris Penny has provided weekly progress reports, and the recruitment project work is on target. According to the rules of the Winnipeg Police Board of Practice and Procedure, appointment made at a public meeting will be made at a public meeting. The board must formally appoint a police chief at a public meeting, at the meeting, or as soon as practicable thereafter. Before assuming his or her duties, the police chief must take an oath or affirmation approved by the minister responsible for the administration of the act. Police Chief Recruitment Committee remains committed to providing a recommendation to council of the appointment of the next chief constable of the Winnipeg Police Service as soon as possible. So there it ends the report of the Police Chief Recruitment Committee. Need Colleen. All those in favor?
Yep.
Opposed, carried. On to item 5. Winnipeg Police Service third quarter business report.
Again, it's posted online. It's been provided a week before. Some of it's been married in with my report as well. I don't know if there's any questions. If not, we'd like to move into the financial reports. But if there's questions, by all means.
Done.
Yeah, I just would like us to acknowledge just the great work of the partnership surrounding WASAC, the role of the Winnipeg Police and the role of the City of Winnipeg. Just congratulations, everyone, for all working together. I think this is a model that we really look forward to moving forward. So
Thank you.
Thank
They're very important partners. Have been for many years, and we love working with them. So thank you for that.
To build on that down a little bit, so there's a correlation or connection here between the police and young people and the prevention side of the equation. And of course, Winnipeg having the highest population of persons in the country, it's critically important going forward that like Wasac be expanded. Because we have the highest birth rate, fastest growing population in the city. And if we don't recognize that need, then the number of people who get into it is going to gain. The old saying, you know, prevention is worth a pound of cure. So, yeah, so we appreciate the support.
Thank you. And I can tell you that I support 100%. So, thank you. That is that report, and now some good news coming up here. Bring up and it's kind of cute.
So we need a motion to accept the police service 2024 third quarter business plan report. Daphne, all those in favor? Opposed, carried.
So it's always a pleasure to bring happy news to the board, and this is very it's going there's going to talk with Q3, but it's really merged into the end of the year as well. And so I'll turn it over to you. So, welcome.
Good morning. So I have the quarter 3 financial update. So this report was prepared with information to the end of September. We're now at the beginning of December. A few months have passed. So some of the projections in the report are now outdated. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what has changed. As noted on page 9 of the report, at the end of the third quarter, the service was expecting to have a mill rate shortfall of just over 2 million, which was primarily related to the $7 million expenditure management savings target. You'll also recall that we prepared an over-expenditure report based on the third quarter report that was to be presented at the Standing Policy Committee of Finance and Economic Development last week, and Acting Chief Standard deferred the report at that meeting. Unfortunately, the over-expenditure authorization process does not align well with the police board meetings and the SPC meetings. So, preparing the over-expenditure report, given the best information that we had at the end of quarter 3, and submitting it through the approval process in middle of October, which is our last available opportunity to get it on a December meeting agenda. That was still the best option at the time. As I said, we're a little bit farther in the year, and all indications are pointing to that we will come in within the budgeted mill rate. So as I said, there's been an improvement since Q3. What's happening there is the same items that are articulated in the quarter 3 report as having partially or expecting to partially achieve expenditure management is now expecting to fully achieve expenditure management. So we've got savings related to the occupancy of the new North District Station. We were budgeting to move in around January 1, and that didn't happen until later in quarter 3. So there's savings there. We also have leave bank cash outs. So this is relating to our retiring members. Now that we're closer to the end of the year, we have a much better idea of what our retiring members are choosing for pre-retirement or leave bank options, and we're going to have some savings there. We also have salary savings within our professional staffing complement. So this is our non-sworn members. And we're having some positions that are staying vacant longer than intended because of the duration of the hiring process. It takes a long time to get to fill some of those vacancies. So we're having some savings there. In addition, overtime. So for the better part of the year, we were projecting that overtime would come in over budget for the first time since 2016. And what we're seeing is that overtime has started to slow down in quarter 4, and we're now expecting to come in on budget or very close to budget. So to recap, we are now expecting to achieve the full $7 million expenditure management saving target that was built into the budget and come in within the budgeted mill rate for 2024. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Questions? With respect to the civilian positions, vacancy management, is it having an impact on service, or are these, where is this having an impact on service?
Yeah, at times it does. You know, so then we use overtime to call in people for the workload part of it. It's just the timing of it. Sometimes you have to, you're doing a background, but then you have to maybe put on the back burner because the recruit class is coming up, and so we have to, you know, with most of investigation into those ones as well. So yeah, sometimes it does.
And OT, you're saying it's slowed down, specifically what area? Public order events or Any other areas of overtime? I know that we're, in terms of homicides in the city, we're at 40. Is that having an impact there?
I think it's really on like just like the calls for service and the queue are starting to come down. We're no longer using overtime for minimum staffing.
So, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
We don't do the FL cars right now. Once we hit kind of a peak of calls for service on September long weekend. Then after that, we've seen kind of a steady decline. So I believe it's about the beginning of October. We have the cars that are first response cars that kind of take out the priority 5s and 4s. So we stopped using those resources on the weekends. So that kind of helped their overtime.
Yeah. Great. Any other questions? Comments?
I guess we're always gonna be within on budget. It's a credit card debt we're paying on of the $7 million in expenditure management. Like we're always, we're proud to say we're gonna be within budget, but we have to pay off that debt. So.
Well, this is great news for the taxpayers of the city of Winnipeg to hear that you're going to be in line with the budget this year. So great news. Okay, I'll need a motion to accept this to go to finance. Damon, all those in favor? Those carried. On to 7. Again, this is the Winnipeg Police Board's budget update, and it does show that we are in line to meet our budget requirements to the end of the year 2024. There's no questions with respect to what we have online here. I'll need a motion to accept this to move it to finance as well. Daphne, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. And item 8, Winnipeg Police Board community consultation results. A lot of the consultation that we did this year was with respect to the police chief recruitment. I know that for 2024, we've had some, for going forward into 2025, we've had some discussions on how we're going to improve or increase consultation with the community as we're working on our 4-year strategic plan and building stronger relationships within each of the stakeholders and right holders here in the city of Winnipeg. So again, we have a budget dedicated, but we recognize that we need some additional resources around this to host comprehensive consultations within the community. So with that, I need a motion to accept this community consultation results if there are no other questions or comments as information. Diane, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. And lastly, Winnipeg Police Board 2025 Communication Plan. The report is posted online as well. 12-page report. I will put it up there for questions or comments. Diane?
Yeah, we had a discussion at one of our meetings, and I noticed that the information that we discussed just didn't make it into this report. So I think we can approve it with an amendment because we had already had the discussion to add the First Nation Métis Inuit as the government meetings that we have. And then on the community portion that we add the urban Indigenous leaders.
Okay. So I know, and just in terms of background comments, that there's still some dialogue in terms of clarification on some of the organizations. So we can accept it now as information and with amendments to come.
Yeah, as long as that's noted that we are going to be amending this in the way that we had already discussed.
Okay, and
Yeah, can I just clarify? So, yeah, taking this information, but directing that it be amended to add the First Nation Métis Inuit. Sorry, you said.
Yeah, in the, I can refer you to page. Page 7, sorry, I don't have my old lady glasses.
It's okay.
Under the elected civil, provincial, federal. And then on the community part, the urban indigenous leaders on page 8.
Somebody move that motion? That was you, Danielle?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Most carried. And I will need somebody to call for adjournment. Damon, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Stand.
I'll try again. See if it works.